There are a lot of different facets of this Marvel slate announcement we can talk about. One aspect of the Marvel slate announcement that I do want to talk about is actually unrelated in a way to Marvel, in that it comes on the heels of the DC, the big DC movie slate. A lot of people thought, oh, Marvel was just announcing this as a reaction to DC. And the fact of the matter is, I mean, Feige said this was supposed to be at Comic-Con, and they couldn't close the deal.
Right.
He didn't say for what, but I think we all know it's for Doctor Strange, because this week also saw the Benedict Cumberbatch story really burning up, and he wouldn't confirm or deny it. So it sounds like basically they wanted to do all this, bring people out on stage, but they couldn't close the deals in time.
It's a lot of players, a lot of moving parts. I mean, these are complicated deals.
Yeah. And well, the big difference, at least to me, and I have a feeling you'll agree, is that, the Marvel announcement was made for the fans. The DC slate announcement was for shareholders. And that illustrates perfectly the complete difference between those two companies.
I think it's about the approach. I think that Marvel very purposely said, like, even if we couldn't put on a show sort of for the fans at Comic-Con, we're going to put on a great show. We're going to not only open it up to the press, we're going to open up to the public. It's about fans. It's a very smart, I think that Kevin Feige truly is a fan of this material.
Oh, yeah. No, he is.
But he's also a really savvy, which isn't to say that the folks over at DC aren't fans of their material, because they are too, but you're talking about Warner Brothers, that arm.
Yeah.
So, Disney knows how to put on a show. Marvel knows how to put on a show. They know how to galvanize the fan base. They know how to make you feel like you're a part of it and get just as excited with them.
And it is important that you point out Disney,
savvy.
too, because Disney has been doing that for years with their D23 club, but, like, they know how to reel people in and make it like an event. Hey, look what we put on for you,
dun, dun, dun.
And Warner Brothers, like, in their defense, this isn't being judgmental of them, because it is a completely different entity.
Right.
Kevin Feige is the end-all, be-all. I know there are other players there. You've got, Jeff Loeb in the TV division, and you've got Joe Quesada involved and all that. But at the end of the day, on the movie side, Feige is the boss.
Right.
Whereas in Warner Brothers, you have many other political factors in there, between studio executives who've got to maintain their job. They have shareholders. They have so much more at stake. Marvel does one thing. They make movies of their comics, and that's it.
And they do it really, really well.
And they do a fantastic job. Warner Brothers has multiple things that they have to do, and but that's not going to stop us from comparing the slates.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that it's very interesting, and it's, I think, a number of reasons. Like, it was a big deal when Warner Brothers announced that slate of movies, which wasn't, by the way, again, following up on our other point, wasn't just DC movies. Now, it was majority
stuff,
DC movies, but there was some
Harry
Fantastic
Potter,
Beasts,
Lego
and stuff in there as well. So it was a big deal. However, I think we came in and we shot, it was like, okay, hey, get into the office. We're going to shoot some conversations today. We shot maybe one or two.
Yeah.
This was like mayhem.
Yeah.
All hands on deck. This is what we trained for.
Well, because if you look at the DC slate, it's movies of all the same characters from the Justice League lineup.
Right.
So it wasn't, whereas this is all sorts of new characters and very epic storylines that could spell the doom, the end of certain characters.
Sure.
And
so likely will.
Let's kind of do that sort of, I don't want to do it like necessarily a point-by-point comparison, but I did find it striking that both slates have a two-part superhero team movie that will likely have, definitely in Marvel's case, a cosmic element, because they had quick footage of Thanos wearing the Infinity Gauntlet. I love that I did that, by the way. And then, certainly, I think it's a safe bet that Darkseid will probably show up in the Justice League movie, But you have a two-part kind of cosmic superhero movie. You have one movie pitting two heroes against each other: Batman v Superman, Captain America,
and then
Civil War.
And they were on the competing date originally.
Yeah. Can you imagine if that came down to the
It would have
same
come
day?
down to what fight would you rather see?
Yeah.
Batman versus Superman or Iron Man versus Cap? I don't think it quite would come down to
both of them has a third awesome superhero, kind of like, what side are they on? You got Wonder Woman and then Black Panther.
Right. Yeah.
So, and then you also have each one with a female superhero and a black superhero getting their own spin-off movies. And then you have sort of the first movies for other characters, like you have Doctor Strange in there, the Inhumans. So there is sort of it is a little comparable. I know the fans will nitpick that statement, be like, no, it's clearly there. You don't know what you're talking about. I don't know why I'm doing that voice. But I do think it's interesting that both over the next few years, you're going to see parallels in terms of the sort of the epic scale of these storylines.
I do as well. I would also just say, in terms of why I think that the fan reaction was so meteoric to the Marvel Day, other than all the reasons we've already said, is that they are coming off of Captain America, the Winter Soldier, and they're coming off Guardians of the Galaxy, which were just very recent and two huge successes this summer. Most people absolutely love those movies. Certainly I did.
Yeah,
I think you did. DC in this iteration, is coming off of, they have one movie.
They can't rely on the Nolan trilogy anymore because that's not
a part of it.
That's not the new thing. Yeah.
That's not a part of it at all. So they have Man of Steel. And there was a mixed response to that film.
Yeah.
So I think that that's another reason. But again, what I hesitate to do is make this a versus, because we're excited for all of them.
Look, Batman is my favorite character, but I love Marvel and I love the Marvel movies, and I can walk and chew gum at the same time, and
there you go. We want them
Marvel
all to be great.
I really do. I mean, I sincerely I want everyone to succeed, because this is sort of the finite. And it is going to be finite, a golden age of this genre. This is kind of like what Westerns were in the 40s and 50s, where this is like as good as it's going to get.
It is.
They'll still make them, but
it won't be as good as this.
But it's never going to be, you'll never recapture that sense of an event the way that the last 15 years, or I should say from 2005 until 2020 is going to really be like, and this really is like the age for this particular genre.
I agree, and it's funny, we've been talking a lot about this week, and I use the same analogy of Westerns, and have very often. Like Westerns, they lasted quite a while, lasted about 50 years, but there was a period that was the golden era and the heyday, right? And you're absolutely right. We are in that right now for comic books. For comic book movies, we want them all to be great because we love movies, and we want movies to be great.
Yeah, exactly. I don't feel like wasting 2.5 hours of my life at something that sucks. But it's also too. It's
having said that, which one are you most looking forward to?
Of from each slate.
Yeah,
Doctor Strange from Marvel, because I really like that character. I've really been wanting him to get his movie for years. Although it's followed very closely by Black Panther, because I really do think he's going to probably fill the void left by ultimately Cap and Thor kind of being phased out of the Marvel and out of the MCU for contractual reasons, amongst other things. And then on the DC side, Batman versus Superman, the first one, just because I really, again, it's going to be tough to probably recapture the first time you see these two guys together finally on the big screen. But from the later ones, I mean, obviously, Justice League, there's a lot writing on Batman versus Superman. That's like their Iron Man 1, even more than Man of Steel was.
To kick it off.
Yeah, because it's going to be just visually, it's from what we saw at Comic-Con, and, it's visually very different than Man of Steel.
Right.
It's looks more like a Snyder movie, like 300 or Watchmen. And I just, it's to me, if that doesn't work, you're kind of, you're really in a pickle.
There's a lot to ground to make up for.
But I can't wait. I think it's got a great cast, and I do think it's going to be fine. I think it's going to be a good movie, and I'm hoping. I'm optimistic.
I think I'm most looking forward to, of the Marvel slate right now, Civil War. Just because just the Russo brothers, conceptually, seeing those two characters. I mean, the story is one that I would be into, period, just as at its baseline.
And it is kind of like a Western where you'd have like the two old gunfighters that were buddies, but now they're on opposite sides. And there is kind of, I love Westerns if you can't tell. But yeah, there's definitely that sort of, the very mythic thing going on there.
There is, and then it's got sort of the undercurrents and things that it's touching on in terms of our culture at present. I think the Russo brothers did a fantastic job with the Winter Soldier. Cap is now probably my favorite character in that
I know,
universe.
right? Yeah, and he was the one that had all the like question marks hanging over it, like
Yeah.
I don't know, man. And even
But I also love Tony
internationally,
Stark.
right? But I think Tony Stark, he naturally lends himself to being kind of an antagonist
Yeah.
because he is. We love Tony Stark, but you know he is the most morally dubious one of them.
Yeah.
And it
It's gonna
kind
be
of
fun
it
to
lends
explore
itself.
that, right?
Yeah, yeah, and it's like, and also like Tony, I think is going to be. And this explains why they were able to get Downey back now for another 3 movies is we're going to give you a really cool arc. You're
Yeah.
going to kind of become an antagonist, and now you have to redeem yourself again. It seems like the through line throughout Tony Stark's kind of movie career will be redemption. Like this is a guy who at heart is a good guy, but he's got a lot of bad facets to himself.
And I don't think he'll become an antagonist, you know, sort of just like villain, which is so much more interesting. It's so much richer that he's going to feel compelled after the events of Avengers 2 to go, we are dangerous.
Yeah.
And I truly believe that I am doing what is right for the world, not just us, but for the world.
Because he has realized he is just a man in a tin suit,
Yeah.
you know? It's
and
like
equally, Kat feels the same way. Like,
Yeah.
no, I feel that I am doing what is right for the
Yeah.
world. And I think that's just a much more interesting
it's also
battle.
interesting too because it's almost like Xavier and Magneto
Yeah.
having that. There's some of my favorite villains are the ones that have a philosophical divide.
It's
right?
a philosophical divide, and I think it lends itself to a really interesting film period.
What if it just turns out to be like an episode of Crossfire,
Oh.
and they're just arguing
They're
for
just
2
arguing
hours?
for 2 hours.
You know, and they get into like
And then, like,
turns into like a Greek.
Jon Stewart shows up.
yeah.
And they show up on the Daily Show, work it out, laugh
Stephen
it
Colbert
off.
is on one
Yeah.
side, Stewart's on the other. All right. Well, I think look, it's DC and Marvel both. Big kudos for being daring and epic.
And I'm looking forward to Batman vs Superman the most, and then Wonder Woman.